And I'm not too sure, maybe it's his network that is not going right, but we'll continue to have him up. I'll continue to have him up here. Okay. In the meantime, Mkoma Champion, do you have got anything that you would want to comment about what has been said by Mr. Magu, in particular on how the government has just been trying to hoodwink people in believing that ordinary people are being empowered, but at the same time, they are only working on their issues?
Oh, thank you, Brother Denford. And thank you also, listeners who are down there. It is a pleasure to be on this space because this space is very, very enlightening. When you look at the numbers, especially in terms of income inequality, if you look as well at the social structure that we have in Zimbabwe, you would agree that without any hesitation, in terms of what has been enlightened, because look particularly to say right now in Zimbabwe, we don't have a middle income group. If you want to make a comparison with other African countries, with South Africa, with Algeria, with Egypt, with Kenya, with Tanzania, and the rest, even Zambia, Zimbabwe does not have a middle class. And when you don't have a middle class, what does that mean? Because middle class is a group of people that drives the economy. Because whatever activity that is being done in an economy is much centered on the middle income, because those middle income group is the one that does a lot of things. Entrepreneurs themselves, they will be focusing on those, giving them contracts. Let me give you an example as for cell phones, to say contract phones, most of them, they will be bought by people who are in the middle class because they are the ones who are supporting a lot of people, because rich people will be able to afford. But in order for cell phone companies, banks, and so forth to create money, which group they are targeting and which group are they using is the middle class group. So if you don't have that group in a society, what do you expect? Because our society is only consisting of two groups of people, the rich and the poor, of which now there is no marketing activity that focuses on that group that is not existing at the moment. And when you look to say in terms of leakages, which I have mentioned before, what he said is actually truth. To say today a legislation has been introduced, tomorrow that same legislation is no longer existing, or it's now you now have got another situation whereby the elite are the ones who are now exporting on their own, meaning that everything was not designed to create value in the sense which I was talking about, because it's only focusing on maximizing wealthy on those who are rich or those who are part of the elite system. And he actually mentioned the people who are part of the elite system. He talks about the army, permanent secretaries. He talks about even those who are ruling, the provincial senior people, all those, including the police and others, the judiciary and so forth. And so when you look at that, you can see that the economic system is skewed actually towards the elite system. And also this economic system it's protected in the sense that every mining company that comes to Zimbabwe, it has got a specific target of people who should be shareholders. If it doesn't have those kind of people, it means that mining company will never see the light of the day. Think about it again to say what instead of indigenization to create rich black people who should be able now to transform wealth and also to drive the economy. These black people who were supposed to be enriched by the system are no longer there, and they are not even existing. Why? Because we had people who had 100% ownership in companies which they did not own in specific terms or in practical terms, because these people, they were only shareholders on the paper, but in real they were not shareholders. So these are some of the things that are very, very important, because you can't transfer wealth in such kind of a system, because on the book or on the paper it's correct, but in terms of real transformation of wealth, there is nothing that is happening. So this is the problem that we are facing right now, in the sense that there is nobody who comes to invest in an environment where it is only for the elite, and even also the cost of doing business is so high, in the sense that you need to pay someone going forward. You need to pay someone who is going to be part of you negotiating on behalf to the president. You have to pay somebody who is also going to give you a mining license. So by the end of the day, your capital is going to be depleted. So those are issues that I have seen. But for me, I just want to say, I really, really applaud Brother Farai, because he is speaking some of the things that we cannot see. We were only scratching on the surface, but he is going deeper to give us the detail of what we are looking for, what our mining or our sector is failing to do, because you can't have a mining company that does not develop the community. You can't have a mining company that does not even sponsor bursaries. Look at what Rio Tinto used to do. Rio Tinto would say, bring young people, 18 years, 17 years, who have finished the schooling, and they become, they form part of the employee scheme by having apprenticeship and so forth. That could help and transform our people. But right now, with the Chinese, there is nothing that is happening. It only benefits the rogue government, which is part of the elite system. That's where the problem is. So in terms of transformation, there is nothing. We need to reimagine a new system in order for us to realize the transformation, in order for us to realize the value that must be transformed to other sectors of the economy. Because look at Reshaping. If you have been there, you can see that Mimosa is operating, but it hasn't developed fully the Reshaping area to be a proud mining town of which everyone will be feel to be part of it. So we need something that enable us to have a system where you would feel happy to be part of their soccer team. You would be happy to be part of their innovative. Remember, we are coming from a situation where we don't have research and development. And this research and development that lacks, it tells a lot, because we can't have miners who can develop, who can even sample the lithium, who can sample who and what other samples of lithium, gypsum, and all other palladium that are not known. Because I still believe that we have got rare minerals that are not even yet known, but we don't have research and development. How can we explore that to the meaningful, to contribute meaningful to the Zimbabwean situation? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Koma Champion, for your presentation. And before I give a comment, I don't know if the host managed to get Vamagu as a speaker, because on my side, he is not appearing as a speaker. And just to add on
back,
to
Dr.
what... Hello?
Yes, I'm back.
Yeah, I'm back
thank
now.
you. Thank you. We really want you back. And when you continue with your presentation, could you please enlighten me more on Zim Plus? Because in your presentation, you mentioned that Zim Plus has been singled out to be making developmental projects for the community, like building a highway, building a town. So what's the power? What's motivating Zimplus to do that? And what's also different about the other mining companies? Why are they not doing what Zimplus is doing? Thank you. And back to you, host.
All right, thank you very much. I know, thank you very much as well to Mr. Magu for really insisting. I know you're a very busy person, but we need really to hear from you, and Zimbabweans need to hear from you. Just like Dr. Maifa has highlighted you, I also wanted you, as you finish off your submission, to also delve into the issues that have got much to do with the regime benefiting from these mineral resources, and it knowing that this is where it actually gets its resources. Do you think that it is going to be so feasible in the near future for it to actually relinquish power, especially as people are actually realizing that a lot of corruption is taking place in the mines? But you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mkoma Denford. So I will respond to Dr. Mai on Zimplats. I would first say most of the companies that have come to Zimbabwe are not really companies. These are organized criminal gangs coming from China, and they have no profile, business profile. And what I'm saying, the government is aware of that. Most of them come to Zimbabwe on tourist visa, and they then ride on local people with mining licenses and then work with those people. And those people now assist them to smuggle the minerals out of the country in exchange for resource rents. They are kind of in some partnership of some sort. So having no company business profile, no address, they are very much a shadow company, most of them. Even if you want to hold them accountable, you have no one to talk to. So they really fit in the category of organized crime. Most of the so-called companies taking our minerals, they are organized crime, criminal gangs. And what's different with the Zimplats? I think Zimplats is a more established company with the shareholders. It's listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. It's very easy to hold them accountable and identify its beneficial owners. It's very easy as compared to the Chinese companies. And regarding their investments, like in the building a kind of a town infrastructure, I just think it's the management. We have to give credit to their management for showing, leadership in the sector, which I hope, if this same thing had been emulated by companies like Anjin, ZCDC, by now we should be having new towns that have developed in Zimbabwe over the past 20 years due to our minerals. But instead, towns that were developed during the colonial era are actually dying. I'm talking of Wange, I'm talking about Shurugwi, Zvishavani, Bindura. They are all dying because the logic of the people mining in those towns is simply to loot, and they don't care about the local people who are living there. They don't care about the environment. They don't care about infrastructure and all those things. So they are decaying towns. But for Zimplats, they managed to create something out of nothing. So I also need to also highlight that I'm not into politics, and I will try to stay away from politics as much as I can. But what I'm saying it as a citizen. It's our country too. And we have a responsibility, as long as we can breathe, to call out where government is wrong and also give an alternative vision of how things could also be if we are in the same way of thinking. So one other problem that has happened is politicization of the mineral sector.
Yeah, black motherfuckers, you are right. And Dr. Diamond, we are sexy, baby. Dr. Diamond, oh my god, sexy woman, huh?
Thank you.
Very sorry, everybody here, and to our guest, Dr. Diamond. Apologies to everybody. I didn't know it's me who made this person to come up. He had requested, and I didn't know. Next time, I think I need to go to the profiles of the people that have got to come up. Apologies, Dr. Diamond. Mkoma Farai, go ahead.
No problem. Thank you. So the issue of politicization of minerals. We will never get value from our minerals as long as those minerals belong to a political party. Minerals belong to the nation. They belong to the people, the living, and even the unborn. These minerals belong to them. But you will realize that for one to access our minerals, they must connect with top politicians along political lines, and that is a misnomer. If you go to countries which have better models of mineral governance, like Botswana, South Africa, further afar, you talk of Norway, you talk of Australia. The minerals don't belong to a political party, they belong to the nation. What governs the mineral sector are the laws and the policies of the country. Any political party that is in power, its responsibility is simply to implement existing legislation and policies, rather than to say it's our turn to eat, which I find to be the logic in Zimbabwe's mineral governance. The second challenge we have is the securitization of minerals. We are talking about corruption and governance. It's tantamount to undermining state security. And that kills governance. I have interacted with officials from the RDCs, officials from Environmental Management Agency, and other government departments, and most of them are afraid to execute their mandate for fear of the security sector, that we will be accused of undermining the security interest of Zimbabwe. That is a big problem. And that's why even today, nobody is asking, where are the diamonds from Anjing going? No one knows. Where are the diamonds from ZCDC going? What if they built even a classroom block? Nobody's asking, because government is securitized the diamonds. It's like a sensitive topic. People are afraid to ask questions. And the third one is militarization of the mineral sector. You will never develop as long as our minerals are militarized. Whenever the military gets involved, civilian offices are disempowered. I think if the military is interested in mining, there must be a certain way by which they should be given mining concessions. I don't know where it's done. I think there could be some examples and some models. But what's happening in Zimbabwe today is that the involvement of the military in the security sector is actually affecting regulatory authorities. They will not be able to execute their mandates whenever they are crossing, if they feel they're crossing the paths of the the military, the security, the top political players in the country. So that makes the mineral sector ungovernable. It puts fear in regulatory authorities. I know of a certain powerful person who drove to Mutare when a truck had been blocked from crossing into Mozambique. And that person drove to Mutare and almost manhandled the Zimbabwe of the Forbes border post for blocking that vehicle which was about to illegally take our minerals out of the country. And that needs to be corrected if Zimbabwe is to derive value from its mineral resources. So government is not even pretending to be addressing the crisis in the mineral sector. In fact, they are increasing repression in the mining areas. And this repression, you can see it even in the attempts to block civil society from engaging with affected communities. I've said it earlier on that I've been told several times that PVO bill is targeting organizations like yours to stop you completely from operating in Zimbabwe. You know, I think the next thing they will do is to take away our citizenships and ensure that we are no longer Zimbabweans. But as long as we are in Zimbabwe, with the PVO bill or without the PVO bill, we'll continue to preach good governance, because looting of natural resources is taking many people to their early deaths. It's ensuring that government is not able to deliver services, life-saving services to the people of Zimbabwe. The looting of natural resources is why roofs at Parirenyatwa are leaking. It is the reason why there are no paracetamols, there are no drugs, there is no equipment in our hospitals. It's not that our country is a poor country. We have the resources, but these resources must be channeled towards the treasury and be accounted for the development of our country. The other challenge that we have in the extractive sector are labor issues. Workers in the mining sector are experiencing modern day slavery. And whilst we have got a Ministry of Labor in Zimbabwe, that ministry is non-existent when it comes to the rights of workers. And we've been monitoring developments in Wange where workers are being bent, limbs deformed, some are dying because of unsafe working conditions, but they continue to work, saying, if I don't work for my family, where shall I go? I have children in school, I've got a wife to look after. But the working conditions in Zimbabwe's mining sector are appalling. It's made worse by the Chinese, who unfortunately have got a very low opinion of the Zimbabweans. You can see it by the way they ill-treat them, the way they harass them. And the one is persuaded to believe that somebody in the high echelons of power has actually told the Chinese that do as you please, no one is going to touch you, you are protected. So, because I've traveled the world over, all governments that I've been to, their priority is to protect their citizens. But when I come home and I see how our people are being treated like they are animals by the Chinese, and we've got a ministry and a minister who is paid to protect the rights of Zimbabwean workers, you get very, very concerned with the developments in the sector. So I'll move to the way forward. What should be done? The first thing, we need a minerals law, a new Mines and Minerals Act. The elephant in the living room when you talk about mining is how contracts are being negotiated. Minerals are vested in the president, and I don't know how the president interprets that clause in the Mines and Minerals Act, whether he believes that the minerals literally belong to him or that the minerals are vested in him by the constitution, but in trust on behalf of the Zimbabwean people. But the way that the minerals contracts are being negotiated seems to suggest that that clause is being literally interpreted as to say the minerals belong to the president. So you find that a lot of contracts are signed, and you only are told through the Herald that there is a multi-billion contract that has been signed. You never get the details of that contract. And our concern as citizens is to say, are the national interest protected in those contracts? And then when you look at what happens, how the investors are subjecting our people to slavery, how they are destroying the environment with impunity, how they are siphoning our minerals out of the country illegally and criminally, you begin to think that these contracts need scrutiny to see whether the national interest is there or not. Therefore, the new minerals law needs to put some checks and balances and even clarify what is meant when we say minerals are vested in the state president. The other thing that needs to be done is this. There is need to decentralize decision-making in the mineral sector. Currently, the sector is very centralized. Decisions are made in Harare. That's why you have got these conflicts when the investor receives a mining permit or contract from the government or the president or the minister, and goes out into the community. And when they arrive there, they start threatening people with displacement. They start violating people's cultural rights and many other things. And the local people have no one to talk to. That's why the Chinese, one of the famous statements of the Chinese, when you tell them that what you are doing here, we don't like it, they will tell you that, go and talk to your president. Don't talk to me. So we have this problem where decisions are made by people who are not affected by them. So when Minister Chitando gives a permit to a Chinese to go and start digging near All Souls Mission in Mutoko, a very iconic mission hospital, with also villages around it. And this company is going to dig about 1 kilometer from the mission. People begin to ask questions. If Chitando came from All Souls Mission, was he going to allow the Chinese to come and start destroying the environment along All Souls Mission? And I'm saying this because it's coming from the communities we are working in. We have received complaints of tribalism that they are bringing the Chinese here because they don't belong here. They don't know how sacred that mountain is to us. They don't know what it means when they give foreigners right to come and start digging in our graveyard, in our cemetery, where thousands of people gathered many times to say their last respects to their loved ones. And 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, the Chinese come and start undoing those final rights we had done as a community to our departed ones. Graves are being dug up. Cultural rights and norms are being violated. in the name of mining to get profits. So we need to decentralize decision making. These contracts must be given by an office closer to the community, where the community can go and ask questions if they want to. But the current situation is no questions asked basis, where once Mr. Chitando makes a decision in Harare, it is now implemented as an order from above in the province where the mining must take place. And that's what we are saying. We need these checks and balances. The president, the minister, they are not God. They are human beings. They make errors. And when they make errors, they need to be accessible. There must be a remedy where they are told that the area you gave these people to come and prospect for minerals, it's a community where your people are living there. So their rights are being violated. There is a river, there is a cemetery, there is a church, there is a school. All these things are being neglected in search of profits. So we also need to reach a point where we put a price, a financial fee to the violation of peace and harmony of the community. What does it mean when you dig my grandfather in order for an investor to come and dig minerals there? All these things needs to be looked into. The other thing that we need to look into as we move forward is a recommendation. Parliament must be allowed to play its oversight role. At the moment, the executive in Zimbabwe is a macho, it's almighty. Parliament is not consulted. Parliament has got no access to the agreements which government is entering with these investors. We need a situation whereby if an agreement is reached, Parliament has got power to reverse it if the national interest is not secured in that agreement. So that is not happening. The other issue I would like to add also is that Zimbabwe needs to abandon the Look East policy. And when I say abandon the Look East policy, I'm not saying Zimbabwe must stop engaging China. No. I'm saying the affirmative action towards China must be stopped. And the government must engage investors on the basis of competency, not on the basis of their nationality. That is reducing the quality of investors. Our minerals needs to be exploited by the best qualified company with capacity, proven track record, rather than because somebody flags a Chinese citizenship. I think for now, that's all I can say. And of course, there was Mkoma who was speaking earlier on, the champion. He talked about value addition. That's very, very critical. We need to add value to our minerals before we export them. All our minerals must be processed to a certain level in Zimbabwe. We need knowledge transfer, whereby we must engage even China to say, come and train our people in cutting and polishing of diamonds, processing of lithium, development of lithium batteries. We need that engagement. That's what, if there is this government to government, the engagement with China is to yield fruit, Zimbabwe must ask for technical skills from China, rather than to have China always come to Zimbabwe and take our resources out and they process them in China. And also, another recommendation is that we need mandatory sentences for those who smuggle Zimbabwe's minerals. Ladies and gentlemen, it's disheartening, when you look at how it has become a joke for people to be arrested whilst trying to smuggle our minerals. And after a while, they are told they are innocent. In 2011, we had a guy who came from Israel. He was a pilot. He was called Ishmael Klein. He flew into Harare at around 11 o'clock in the morning. At around 1 o'clock, he was now flying out of Harare with more than 1,400 pieces of diamonds. And as he was trying to fly out, an alert official arrested him. After seeing that he was behaving funny, opened his bag and saw the diamonds. He was caught red-handed with our diamonds. But that guy, he was in cells for a few hours. And after that, he was granted bail. After a while, he was acquitted. I don't know whatever reasoning the judge had in letting such a person go. Recently, we had Henrietta Rushkwaya caught at Harare International Airport with 6.1 kilograms of gold trying to smuggle to Dubai. Arrested. Later, immediately granted bail. And after an outcry, the bail was revoked. And then the matter was dragged. And only 3 weeks ago, the public prosecutor said, we could not find evidence. What more evidence did he want when the bag was caught with? Even she was caught with the bag with gold at the airport. So we need mandatory sentences. If somebody is caught trying to smuggle minerals from Zimbabwe, there must be a mandatory sentence whereby, even if there's going to be a change of government, even if there's going to be a new president, that person will remain in custody, irrespective of who is at State House. We need mandatory sentences. Only then will Zimbabweans start fearing to smuggle minerals. And only then will we maximize value from our minerals and ensure that communities develop and the Minister of Finance receives what is due to it for the development of our country. Thank you. I will stop here, Comrade Denford. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Wamaguhu, for such a passionate presentation, and that actually explains the reason why we brought you here. But I know you are a person who is so much on his time, but for now, I would want to believe you're going to be with us for some time, because I'm sure as much as we've got some people who would want to speak, but there could be some follow-up questions on your presentation. But we really applaud you for coming, sparing your time to come to us and speak to us on this. Koma Chris, you have been with us. Before I go to Dr. Maifa, I acknowledge your patience. You have been with us. I know you have got your presentation to make. And Dr. Maifa, I can bring it to you, after which you give it to Koma Chris. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Koma Denford, and thank you, Wamaguhu, for such an informative submission, and also for bringing the way forward, because we always want solutions, or possible solutions to the problems that we are having. Because of time, let me just hand over this time to Mukoma Chris.
Thank you, Dr. Maifa. Thank you, Koma Denford, and everybody on the space, the speakers. I just want to briefly say, yes, I wanted to start from the case syndrome, that every single time the resources are found, minerals are found, in a country, instead of them enriching the citizen, instead of them making us progress, making us wealthy, they then bring conflict, they then bring poverty, they then bring environmental damage and all sorts. But I also want to look at, can they empower us, ordinary citizens? Yes, they can empower ordinary citizens if they are used. God, I would say God has given us these things for our own benefit, has given, us the minerals for our own good. Because one thing that is so crucial about the minerals is that the demand is always there. In terms of, we have got gold, we have got platinum, we have got all sorts of things. There is always going to be demand, but the key thing is, how do we, make use of those minerals? How do we make use of the demand for our benefit? That's where the key thing of having leaders that have got a vision, leaders that have got a vision, that don't just see the now, but that sees the future. A typical example is what is happening with the Middle East, in terms of the having the resources of the oil. They are now diversifying, they are now investing, because they know that in 20, 30 years time, the fuel will not be in demand, because we are going green, we are going electric. So they will have plenty of the oil, but the world do not need it. So what do? They now diversify, use the resources that they have, the sovereign fund and the rest, and invest in things. And you can see even now in deserts, they are growing crops in there. They are increasing their portfolio in terms of, uh, uh, what do you call it, estate, buying houses, buying, all those kind of things. So for us, we are moving from just picking up diamonds, and now into digging, and into not having them, and then we don't have anything to show for it. Why? Because we have got leaders that just live on the now, that don't live on the what then happens in 20 years time. Because they just, as long as, even like what the speaker was saying, some of them, they are quality diamonds, and we see exactly the same. Do you remember when the land grab happened? The farmers that went on to take, for example, that went on to take tobacco, and they took the tobacco, they didn't know how to go on and do the deals and stuff. So when they took the tobacco, they went there, and then they will be offered, $5, and they wouldn't know. They were not as informed as the white farmers to say, what is the amount, what is the quality, how much am I supposed to get from this? They were just going like, that will do, and then they get the money. Instead of planting it back into farming, they would go on and get a taxi, go around the roundabout, go on and spend the money, and then the rainfall comes, they don't have anything to reinvest. So I think what we need is leaders that don't have the now, that have the future, that have innovation to go like, because these things like, I'll just finish by you were saying that, we need solutions. We need solutions. We don't need just, we have identified our problems, we identified what is going wrong. But these kind of minerals, they've got benefits in providing employment, providing dividends to those that want to invest. We have heard Zimplat is on the stock exchange. They provide taxes, government getting taxes, and through those taxes, it will pay for our hospitals, it will pay for our school, it will pay for our public service, it will pay for, one of the crucial things, which is the welfare system. The welfare system, the disabled, the elderly, people having state pensions. Somebody has to pay for that. That's why we have got the resources. So we want leaders that turn around, that turn around the case that was being talked about, the case of minerals, into something that will be a blessing to us. Will we have the minerals and leaders that realize that these things that we have will not last forever? For example, the diamonds that was, just being picked up, there will come a time when they will be scarce. So what do we do then? So if we have got leaders that have got a vision for tomorrow, they will invest those things into, like what the example I've just given you of the Middle East. They will put it in a sovereign fund that when it now becomes a dry day, or if you want it to be a rainy day, we will go on and tap onto it. But at the moment, we don't, because we've got the leaders that just get it as long as they have got, their mansion, as long as they are going in their Ferrari, stuff everybody else, stuff even the community where they've got. And I respectfully, in closing, I respectfully disagree. I think all of them, none of them are actually doing anything. Yes, they might have, for example, Zimpla they did build some houses in Norton, they did build Mbuyabona, but a typical example would be, they came up with this, the Sevo Kasukwere thing of community partnerships and stuff, and they showed us, these checks, and they said, oh, this is the check that we're giving, and they were just paper. We didn't see the aftermath of the results. And also, when they do these things, when they do these deals, they are shadowy. We just hear that, oh, they are mega, but we don't see how the reality on the ground. We don't see, in practical terms, to say, oh, this is mega because our lives have changed. So that case thing still continues. That case still continues. So I think my solution will be, yes, you might say I'm turning it into politics, but my solution will be political, in the sense that a change of government in the government, because what we have seen from the outline, I'm not going to turn Mr. Magu's presentation into politics, but from my perspective is we have highlighted where things are going wrong. And I don't believe that they will change unless we change a trajectory, unless we change the government. And the government that I think we should do, forgive me for saying that, but it will be like I'm campaigning here, but I have to finish up by saying, by changing a government into a CCC government, into a Chamisa-led government, that will enable us to implement those things that we want, transparency, those things that we want, a vision, those things that we want, people that look for the future. They might not benefit it now, but the future generation will. But at the moment, we are being left with, environmental degradation. And what have we got to show for it? Nothing. We just have got, the tag on us to say we have got the second largest lithium deposit. But we are not planning ahead to say, in the future, all electric cars will need batteries. So let us make use of these. And what do? We end up selling a mine for 30 million, and then the next one sells for 400 million. And then what do we get? Nothing. But we don't know what is underneath. That's the lack of leadership. I'll stop here for now. But thank you for the opportunity. And I think the only way we can empower ourselves is electing a government that will put us first. That will be selfish. That is one thing that these Western powers have. They've got an ability to be selfish, to look after number one first, to put their citizen first. But ours don't. They just go like, put the Chinese first, and then we'll just get the crumbs. The few ZANU-PF people will show off, with the monies, with the golden shoes. But the rest of us are going like, I also think that we have got to be radical, in the sense that if we are going to say, as it stands now, as it stands now, they say, if you mine, the gold is yours. If you go on, you dig the gold, it's yours. So how then are we going? So Tulingue ends up getting a snippet of it, because the rest is of the person that they found the gold. But if we say the gold, I am a little bit going into sort of nationalization. If the government is wholly, responsible for that, but then the partner then pays, is paid for the job they've done, then the Mtulingwe has got a bigger portion of the share. But at the moment is the Sagupanyas, whatever they are called, they've got it all. And us, we are left with whatever they are willing to give us, and I think that's a bad deal. I think I will end here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you very much, Mkoma Chris, for your presentation. It's something that can actually enlighten everybody here on what is the way forward. Because as we come up with topics of substance like these ones, we talk of these problems, we talk of issues that are bedeviling our citizens. But ultimately, what has got to be done in order to bring sanity to our country? I could have wanted Mr. Magu to answer some of the questions that I've got here. Yes, I know we haven't got enough time, but if he had time, he could have just, or Mkoma Champion, I think he will rightfully answer some of the questions that I have here. I am worried about the events that actually unfolded from 2006, when the diamond was actually discovered in Chiadzwa, and a number of us here could be very familiar of what really transpired on the diamond rush that took place from ordinary citizens to high officials from within the government, clerics, different people would come, and even our security apparatus, they actually rushed. There some police officers, army officers actually deserted their positions within their employment. Why? Because there was a diamond that was discovered in Chiadzwa. What really happened there is something that is so deplorable, to an extent that even teachers in 2007, the second term of 2007, we realized that some teachers actually deserted their schools. Schools could not be, almost 3/4 of schools in the Buyera, Chimanimani district, as well as Marange, couldn't open schools. Why? Because the authorities in the schools were unable to attend school. These are some of the things that actually happened. And we have got prominent government officials that were appointed to be part of those people who actually took much of the diamond that was being mined in Chiadzwa. So these are some of the issues that I said I must highlight. And when you would want to come to the question how our minerals can empower ordinary citizens, would we really say our people have been empowered by what transpired in Chiadzwa? Can we say our people have been empowered by the gas and oil that was also discovered in Msarabani? And there was an Australian oil and gas company that actually had to mine there. Did it translate to the empowerment of people? Nobody to answer, but I'll yield my mic to Dr. Maifa if you've got something to say, and then we will have him Commander by Champion.
Thank you very much, Commander Denford. I think we all agree that there's a problem, and what we really have to seriously look at is the way forward. And thank you, Mkoma Chris, for your submission and for recommending a political solution. And I also appreciate Vamaguhu for recommending professional, social, and economic solutions that are not really political. But in a way, we cannot actually separate politics from all these solutions. So thank you very much. I will yield back the mic to the Vamagu, who is still with us, and please feel free to grab back the mic. I invited you so that you could respond to some of the issues that people who have just recently joined us might have. And I think this time Mkomandaba is the one who is to speak. Over to you, Mkomanda.
Thank you, Dr. Maifa and Elo Denford and everyone on space. I will be brief in my submission. It's apparently clear that Zimbabwe is a nation bestowed with the vast natural resource deposit. But the paradox is that the resources do not benefit the general population. Take, for instance, Chiadzwa. I was reading from a certain article that we still have students traveling a distance of more than 20 kilometers to and from school on dusty roads. Yet we know that it's the place where diamonds have been mined. I have an observation. Our minerals, as long as they are controlled by the military, will never benefit the general population. Well, we know how tight our hands are to remove the military from the political space or in the economic space. But I have a question. If Farai was here, as a person who researches much on mineral resources, is it a norm that the military becomes an economic arm in any governments which we know globally? Why is it that the Zimbabwean military is given deals in the mining sector? Is their mandate is not their mandate not to safeguard peace and security for the nation? I think that's one of their fundamental mandates. But we see them venturing into economy. Where do the proceeds they get from mining ventures go to? As it is, we've got this platinum thing where private players have been banned to export raw lithium to South Africa. But the military has been given the license to do so. And we don't know how much is looted in such deals. The looting happens, we know. Gabe told us that 15 billion disappeared. But the fact that it is under the hands of the military, it's hard to investigate. Furthermore, the military, in my own view, takes the proceeds to finance ZANU-PF. We are in the election season as we speak. I understand ZANU-PF has a brand new fleet of cars. Where did they get the money when the economy is in this state? It's from the minerals. So how can we hold our military accountable as civilians? We don't have guns. The military has guns. I don't know if that makes sense. I really don't know how we can free ourselves from that yoke of oppression. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mkomandaba, and we are happy that we've got Farai back with us, and I think there are a number of issues that have been raised. But before Farai answers, I also want to put in my question to say, Farai has spoken about an example of Henrietta on the airport, and this other foreign national who also was arrested with about 1,000 blocks, if I'm not mistaken. My question to you is, how rampant is that system of smuggling by high-ranking? There could be a government official or corporate officials taking out our material minerals from the country to whichever destination that there could be, or it's only those two isolated cases? Thank you.
Okay.
Is it directed to me or Farai?
No, I was asking Farai.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you very much, Denford. So the first one on the military. Of course, all countries are very secretive about their military, how they operate. We have to agree that there is a certain degree to which we, as the civilians, we don't know. There is certain information which is not given to the public about the military. However, when it comes to financing the military, the best practice is that the military should be funded from treasury. I think the reason being that the military must submit itself to the civilian authority. Once it has off-budget spending and financial independence from the treasury, then there is an imbalance of power between the military and the civilian government. So to what extent is the military in Zimbabwe involved in the mining sector? I certainly do not know. But it would be good to have the military funded from the treasury. There's also another element that of that logjam which we need to just flag, that we do not really know whether these military projects or the profits from these military projects cascade to the rank and file of the military, or they only benefit the top brass. No one knows, and I'm not qualified to venture into that. But having said all this, the involvement of the military in the mining sector may be a symptom of a problem. We all remember in 2008 that the military was now rioting because they were not getting their money on time. You also know that the soldiers are public servants who also earn in bond notes, which is a worthless currency. It's not even currency. It's very close to toilet paper, which even the ruling elites themselves don't want to see it. Even if you go to their farms and you want to buy a maize cob using bond note, they will tell you off. So the military also, it's a very important element of the country. And we must also think, what does it mean when the military is given these bond notes and all the things that they need to do to ensure national security? Those are some of the issues we need to flag. So to me, it's a sign of a problem. It's a sign of poor governance. It's a sign that Muturi Ngube is useless and he is not doing enough to make sure that all critical sectors of governance have got enough resources. And it comes back to the issue of resource looting, that if we were properly accounting for every carat of diamond, every ounce of gold, every ounce of platinum and chrome, our military should not be involved in these mining activities. They should stick to their constitutional mandate of defending the nation from foreign enemies. Then how rampant is the problem of smuggling? What I can tell you is that, I think I've already flagged this in the beginning, that the gold dealers who were given licenses by Fidelity Printers and refiners had a prior history of organized crime. These are criminals. People like even there's a guy in Mazoe, he's called Keda. More than 90% of gold that is mined in Mazoe mine and all the tributary claims now end up with Keda. And Keda is politically connected. And they only submit to Fidelity a little bit of gold to retain their licenses. And most of it is smuggled. But the smuggling does not happen through Harare Robert Mugabe International Airport. Those few cases were a misnomer. most of our gold leaves the country by road to South Africa, from where it's flown out of South Africa. And when you talk about the South African route, they don't usually use OR Tambo. They use Lanzaria Airport. Lanzaria Airport is an airport where a lot of private aeroplanes fly in and out. And even our diamonds, most of them which were smuggled, were also smuggled through Lanzaria Airport to other destinations where there are big aeroplanes, medium aeroplanes, which are used to smuggle minerals and other things that are found in the region. Yeah, let me end there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the clarification, Vamaguhu. And we remain seeking a solution. And I hope, Commander, your question about military involvement was answered. Let me give this time to Tapiwa Nashe, and please stick to the topic so that we go back to those people with their hands raised. Over to you, Tapiwa Nashe. Host, do you hear Tapiwa Nashe?
I don't hear him.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yes, we now hear you.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Okay, yes. The problem with smuggling actually it was inherited from the Smith regime during the UDI, especially during the Bush War. You remember that Malawian trucks were used by the Rhodesian government to beat sanctions. Basically, Malawians, of course, they had to pass through Zimbabwe for them to go to Malawi. And Kamuzu Banda was very sympathetic he was friendly to white people. Even he was visiting South Africa, you remember, officially during our war. I mean, the rest of Southern Africa was fighting a war. And then he was busy visiting apartheid South Africa and Rhodesia and so forth. Sorry, not Rhodesia as such, but he was friendly to Smith. So what happened was within the commercial department, there's intelligence, economic intelligence, and as a team, a crack team of smugglers within that department to beat sanctions, to actually export or whatever it is to export and then import military gear and stuff like that. So this system was actually inherited by Robert Mugabe as well. As soon as the sanctions started in 2000, there's data and stuff like that. The roads and everything, they say it's.
Excuse me, Komatapiwa. Can you clarify? Are you saying sanctions always result in smuggling, or where does sanctions come in here?
Yeah, I think we've got problems with the Tapiwa's network, but Dr. Maifa, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, host.
Okay. We now have Speak Truth, but let me quickly go to okay, let me have Ndaba speak. I think he wanted to speak something that had been spoken by Farai. After which I will give Koma Champion and then Speak Truth.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I wanted to respond to Brother Farai. He really did answer my question on the involvement of the military in our mining sector. But I still have a question. In national budgets every year, the military is still allocated a lion's share in the national budget. But we don't see the revenue the defense industries bring from their mining ventures. Still, that's a very concern to me. because one, there seems to be double dipping from the national treasury, and these OPEC deals they get. We need actually to speak out on this. Probably this will bring normalcy to the mining sector. Again, I want to respond to Tapiwa. Tapiwa talks about smuggling being an old thing. He cited the Smith sanctions. Yes, it happened during the Smith regime, but I think Smith did it for national benefit than what we see today, where individuals smuggle for egocentric or self-centered causes. When Smith was smuggling, is it minerals or whatsoever produce from Rhodesia, it was for national development. That's why we inherited a strong infrastructure, a functioning economy. Even if the country was under sanctions, they were smuggling for national purposes, not for self-enrichment. That's the difference that Tapiwa is missing, I think. Thank you.
So I'm not too sure if Ramagu would want to answer, but as I say it, I'm sure let's just take it to Mukoma Champion. Speak out to come through after Champion.
Okay, thank you. All right, Koma Farai wants to speak maybe.
Just briefly, I wanted to respond to Ndaba on the military budget. So when you look at our country, all indications, social, economic indications, resemble a country at war. You will see this, like if you go to a hospital in Zimbabwe and you see those who are on their deathbeds, and you see the state of the beds they are sleeping on, the blankets covering them, the empty dispensaries, dejected hospital staff. You see that we are a country at war. When you drive in our neighborhoods, you see roads have disappeared. They will show you that for the past 40 or so years, we have not invested in our road infrastructure because we have been at war with each other. You will see that we are at war when you see children learning under the trees 43 years after independence. Any indication in Zimbabwe, we don't have a currency. People are earning in a worthless currency. Our factories, our manufacturing industry has died because we are a country at war. So the war is very real that Zimbabweans are involved in. They fear in our people. When you go to the passport office and you see how many Zimbabweans are desperately trying to get that document to leave the country, it breaks my heart when I see Zimbabweans smiling that they want to leave the country. In a normal situation, they should be said that I'm leaving my country to go to a foreign country where I'll be taken maybe as a second-class citizen or something like that. So all socio-economic indicators of Zimbabwe resembles a country at war. So the budget of the military is the reality. These are the figures that these are the scientific figures that confirms that we are at war with each other, and that there is high level of insecurity in government. There is a high level of uncertainty in government. Hence, that's why you find that when there is limited resources, they will stagger the payments of civil servants. They will first appease the military. Why? Because they have the guns. And last, they will pay the teachers because they are harmless, so to speak. So that is the problem, my brother. And unless and until a government feels secure, the military will always receive the highest budget allocation because we are a country that is at war. And let me end there. Allow me not to go deeper into how are we at war, but I think I've tried to explain that in the minds of the Zimbabwean people, this country is at war, and it has been at war for many years. And that's why Zimbabweans are giving up, and they are saying it's better to go and die in South Africa, in Namibia, in Mozambique, or anywhere than to remain in this country. And that's why the government relies so heavily on the people, because yes, on the army, because the social capital is vanished. In other words, if the security of the government is in the people, they will reduce the military budget and invest in the people. But from where I stand, government is taking away from service delivery to the people and investing more in the security sector than the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maguhu, for your response and submission. I want to emphasize what we have already mentioned. Zimbabwe is at war because in your opening remarks, you clarified that it's a paradox of plenty. We have plenty mineral resources in Zimbabwe, but we, the people, have nothing. We are all sinking in poverty. So that's great war there for everyone in Zimbabwe. So I just want to remind everyone that we are almost coming to the end of this space, and people will be giving their concluding remarks, and we won't be getting any new speakers. And I want to encourage those who joined us later to listen to the whole presentation by Rama Guhu. You'll find it on this Twitter recording. You'll find it on our YouTube channel, which is pinned to this space, Reshaping Zimbabwe. And I will now give the chance to our new speaker, which is Speak the Truth. He has a question and a submission to make. Thank you, Speak the Truth.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Mai. Thank you, Danford, and thank you to everybody who's on this space today. I think we're always learning, and I'm glad for these spaces that are cordial, because you learn so much from just listening. And there's a lot that has been said here today. And I think what Farai was saying, Mkoma Farai was saying, is very important. One of the companies that was given sanctions is ZDF. Why? Because they were heavily involved in the mining of Marange diamonds, and it was a way of trying to ensure that, you know, the military wouldn't have the resources that it required to continue the operation of people by getting new weapons or attaining sort of new stuff from the market. So it is a fact, and if we go on the sanctions list, the reason why they were targeted under sanctions, it was because of this thing. So yes, the military does play a pivotal role in Zimbabwe's trajectory, whether the opposition, you know, wins the next elections or not. But how can we benefit from our minerals? I'll go back to the question. I think there's some of the guys in the chat today have raised the important questions, but we are not going to be able to get the most out of the minerals if we are going to be exporting and smuggling everything out of the country, and that is a fact. Until we decide to build manufacturing sectors and industries that is going to process the lithium, that is going to ensure that the diamonds are polished in Zimbabwe, that are going to ensure that the purification of the gold is all done in Zimbabwe, and we are making products from the gold and the minerals that we get, no ordinary person will ever achieve anything. I have not seen any manufacturing plant that ZANU-PF has committed to building for our country, which is a very worrying and disturbing factor, because all they seem to care about is to get as much out of the country as possible in its raw state. No country whatsoever has ever achieved anything by not having manufacturing and processing industries within them, because from these industries what you get is you get added value to the raw material that you are mining from your own country. No one from ZANU-PF will tell me that there's anybody thinking about producing a gigabyte factory that is going to make Tesla batteries, because it's a simple concept. When you look at Tesla and you say to Elon Musk, look, we can make you a gigabyte factory in Zimbabwe, he will probably be looking to put up with the money required to create that gigabyte factory, which will employ thousands of Zimbabweans, ordinary Zimbabweans, who will be upskilled, who would then be able to feed their families, and who will be able to improve their own livelihoods and the trajectory of their country that we so love, right? But no one talks about these things. We speak about, the government tells us, yeah, we've got 38,000 tons of gold this year. But what have they done with those gold figures? We know if they're telling us that 38,000 tons has been mined, which is worth about whatever, 100 million, whatever it is that they've given us, we know that's a modest figure. But what have they done with that money? So for me, I think we're losing sight of, and we have lost sight of what is really important and value addition when it comes to the raw materials that we are so blessed as a country to have. And the government doesn't have a clue on how to add value to this, because yes, you can say you've mined 100 million worth of gold, but if you had polishers and you had companies that were making chains and everything else within Zimbabwe, or you said to them they need to come and do it in Zimbabwe, what you're going to do is you're going to upskill everybody within the community, and then you are going to actually export maybe 300 million on top of, you know what I mean? So for me, that's where I struggle with the ZANU-PF school of thought and the current regime's position when it comes to our minerals and our resources. And until then, I don't think we are going to be able to actually say our minerals are going to empower our ordinary citizens. Yes, Makorokoza are there, but they're selling their gold to who? And then what's happening to the people that they are selling that gold to? Are these guys declaring all the gold, to the government and actually saying, you know what, this is what we've got, or they're smuggling it out? And whenever they smuggle it out, it wasn't my bag. So I think for me, that's where I lose heart, and I am disheartened, because I think Zimbabwe needs a change of vision and leadership, because the current vision and leadership doesn't see beyond the next 100 years. They're seeing beyond the next if the next 5 years. But even then, I don't think that we are going to be able to get anything of substance from the crop of leaders currently in government, because they've been in these positions for the past 30 plus years or even longer, and nothing has come to it. So yeah, until then, I think we have to try and fight for a different vision, because the current vision is desperate and dire, to be honest. So yeah, I submit. I don't know if there was a question in that, but yeah, there we go. Sorry.
Over to you, host. Okay, the host
thank you.
seems to be. Okay.
Kutorara
Okay.
pabasa, Jeff. Thank you very much, Dr. Amefa. I see we've got Mkoma Chris, Mkoma Ndaba. Any one of them can choose to just give their parting shots.
Thank you. I'll do my parting shots. Like I concur with what all speakers have said, especially the expert side of Kuma Farai, and it could have been beneficial for us if he could have gone deeper in terms of, I know, time constraints and all that, avoiding hearing one voice and over for us to get bored, but he could have gone deeper into the areas that he wanted to go in terms of hearing, because they are the people that are on the ground that give in sort of the expert side of the story. But we bring in the general side of the story of what we understand by minerals in mine. My parting shot would be, yes, it is from the fact that I think the solution is the change of government, and we have identified what is going wrong. And I just want to briefly touch on the issue about having the military being in control. We have got, on one hand, they say, oh, they are to protect us. Fair point. They are to protect our sovereignty. They are to protect our security. Fair point. But then going into an area and brutalizing the people that they are meant to protect, for the likes of, there was a lot of human rights violation. And every single time we talk about human rights violation, it then comes up, people start thinking of the West, or as if we've borrowed it. What we are just trying to say is, they have been violations by the so-called military when they came up to take these things. And when people stand up and say, no, it's actually our sacred areas, or at least consult us first before you come and dig our relatives up, and for that they then get the brutal force by this regime. So when we talk about human rights, they then say as if we are borrowing the word. We're just talking about the thing. So in terms of the military, one, we pay for them because they still get a lot of money on the budget, don't they? If you look every single budget that these ZANU-PF ministers come up, the military gets more money. But on top of that, they then are own industries, the military industry, whatever, the one that is sanctioned, So they then, register these companies, and we hear that the likes of Moyo, the elect, were directors and stuff, with shares and stuff. How did that happen? And they shares in the DRC as well. How did that happen? And all that at the top of it, they are using, for example, if they've got a mine, and then they will use our soldiers, which are taxpayer paid, to guard those mines. But the companies are sort of, on stock exchange, or the stock exchange, which means they get dividends. The dividends, we don't know where is the money going back to the treasury? No. So all these things are shadowy, are corrupt. Is corruption in it. So if we are going to be empowered as ordinary citizens, we have to correct this anomaly. We have to correct this anomaly by bringing transparency to it and spelling out. And we need people like Mkoma Farai and his colleagues, people that go out to the ground and dig out and come with facts. I applaud you for that, Mkoma Farai, in that, yes, you bring, you don't bring the political jacket to it. You bring in the fact, to say this is what is happening, and you avoid bringing in a political jacket, because the moment you bring in a political jacket, the other side, they will jump on and are going to say, oh, he's at the opposition, but you bring him to say, this is what we are experiencing, and this is what needs to be done. And I think it is important, and I think it is beneficial to us to say, look, this is what is happening, so what do we do? And we then wear our political jackets and we say, as you know, in aspiring, as I don't think we are aspiring, we know that we are going to be the new government. This is the things that we're going to do, taking on from the experts and bringing on to what we have seen going wrong, where we have seen that people get caught with the gold, and they say, oh, I am CIO and I am an aide and I am the Tumana mama, and then it just disappears. I took the wrong bag. So you were going to pick the right bag at some point, weren't you? So when you were going to pick the right bag, where were you going? Who puts gold in their handbag and then just waits for the right time? And it doesn't make sense. But this is the country that we live in now. So we have to correct that. And thank you for the topic. And it speaks to us to say, if we are going to, because these things will not last, so we need to make sure that we invest in them. Like I said before, take on, you know, the ideas from the Eastern world, you know, where they are investing in other things, so that when time comes where we don't have any more diamonds, we will not be. Let's look at Botswana and say, learn from our mistakes, like what these other neighbors did. They learned from our mistakes on land reform, and they didn't do it the way we did it. So can we learn the same thing in terms of our minerals, and then empower, real empowerment, not the empowerment of the Kasukueres and the ZANU-PF, but the empowerment, real empowerment of making sure that the children, they now have schools, we have got hospitals, the elderly are paid for. We can do it. We don't need the Belarusian government, the president, to come in and give us tractors. Through our resources, we can actually empower our own farmers. We can buy tractors ourselves, because if the 2 billion that gets smuggled every year, we can buy, how much were those tractors that he brought? Less than 400,000. We can actually do it. The what is it called? Sorry, I'm finishing now. The Minister of Home Affairs, he said you smuggle 200 million every month. So in 2 months, we can buy the tractors and give Lukashenko his tractors back, because we can afford it ourselves. So it's only a matter of good government. Thank you, Koma Demfu.
Yes, thank you very much, Christy, and you are always forgiven. So we very much appreciate your submission. I would want to give this time to Zimbabwe, then we'll go to Ndaba. We'll finish off with the Kuma Farai to round off his submission. But let's do it in 3 minutes, precisely 3 minutes, so that we can catch up with our time. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much, guys, for this space. There is a productive discussion here. Anyway, I wanted to, the last speaker's question does not, particularly bring political jackets. So I'm going to try to adhere to what he said and move on to just speak about mineral resources and how they empower citizens in general, and not specifically just targeting Zimbabwe as it is. But I think, you already know, Denford, by now, that I really focus on Africa as a whole. So the issue is, Africa really has a lot of resources, and Zimbabwe included. If you go at Mimosa mines, they mine more than 16 minerals every day. They have 16 listed minerals which they get. But and among the minerals that are in Zimbabwe, we know that we have got large deposits of lithium, but it is being exported heavily to countries like China. And at the end of the day, us Zimbabweans, we end up importing phones which are made with batteries of lithium. And sometimes we even buy batteries only and import batteries, which we cannot, something that we can actually make on our own. So the question of how minerals can help or can empower our ordinary citizen It is when we decide to say, good, after we mine, we need to have a strict policy that raw materials should not just go out of Zimbabwe or any other African country. We should be focusing on trying by all means to process them into the materials that we want. It's like you wonder why we import gold rings. It's just melting gold to a certain temperature, putting them in a certain template, then you have got the shape of a ring. But right now, most of the people who bought very original gold rings for their weddings, for their anniversaries, or whatever they were doing, there is a higher probability that that ring was imported somewhere. It was not made in Zimbabwe. But we have gold in Zimbabwe that we mine on our own. We mine diamonds in the mine of diamonds is running away, but it's the Murowa diamonds. We have Murowa diamonds where we mine diamonds. But we cannot make those diamond bracelets ourselves. We have to export raw diamonds. And you know how expensive is it to now buy those things back? I always say that a country that sells the resources and buy a finished product is simply paying back for that cost. Because if it's me, I've bought something which I've used as resources to make a certain product. When I'm now selling the final product, I will include the cost in the pricing and include my own profit in the pricing. So as Zimbabweans, we sell these things for, like, let's say 3,000 for let's say $3. The final product comes is $5. The 3,000 that we paid, this they are going to get it that they paid, they'll get it back, and they've got a profit of $200 on top of that. And because the shipping of those resources out of Zimbabwe, the shipping of those, it also helped them create their own industry, like the shipping companies and the likes, those guys who run flights and the likes. And these all things, they don't benefit Zimbabweans. If we're there in Zimbabwe and we're processing all these things on our own, even the transporting business would actually improve as we're transporting these things from one place to another within Zimbabwe. We have trucks that are running in Zimbabwe from this warehouse to this and this likes, but we don't focus on that. So my contribution to this discussion is that we need to actually start focusing very heavily on making sure that the resources don't go out of Africa, and Zimbabwe cannot do this on its own. That's why we have to go back to that seat and talk about Pan-Africanism and talking about having a same international policy when it comes to African countries. And just tell Guti, we don't want anyone who comes to our forest and harvest our trees to make papers. We don't want anyone who comes to take our gold. Let's just, Africa should maybe operate on its own, no import, no exporting of raw materials. Let's make the things on our own. If we can make it, it means we don't need it. Let's do that. Anyway, guys, that's my contribution to this discussion.
Thank you very much, Zimbabwe, for your submission. And it's good to always consider Zimbabwe together with the rest of Africa, because Zimbabwe is not an island on its own. So I appreciate that, because if we include our neighboring countries, then we'll be able to keep our resources. I'll give this time back to the host to call upon people to give their parting shots. Over to you, host.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ngoma Champion. I will give you priority. You have been having problems with your network. I still wait 3 minutes.
Us to look at some of the things that I have been talking about, especially when we talk about steward leadership, because that enable, if we have got leadership that enable everyone to benefit, that is a way to go, because we know that this elite system, it's modeling everything to benefit themselves, not anybody else. And the empowerment part, which we can say ordinary citizens can be empowered, I think it may be a distant dream to talk about. And also, I think labor laws have to be changed. I think as well some of the acts have to be reformed. One, it's labor laws. Two, it's the Exchange Control Act. I think the Gold Minerals Act as well have to be changed, because where we see the problem is that the president is the sole, he doing everything for himself, and the devolution that has been put in the constitution is not being followed, because I don't think a mine in Mazowe have to wait for the decisions made in Harare. I think that's one of the one of the demerits that we may find, because these guys, they may not be able to make better decisions for what is happening in Mazowe. And also we need research and development department, because look at it properly to say we don't have research and development, right? When we don't have research and development, how can we allow ourselves, or how can we tap from the population that is innovative? How can we train our people to be innovative, creative, and so these things have to be done. But the central to everything, it's leadership and governance. That's my ending. So if we fix leadership and governance, and this comes from the political administration of the day, because right now we are walled up in a cave because of elite system of leadership that only benefits the elite and no one else. Companies coming to Zimbabwe, they are rogue. They come again and it becomes monopolies. And when they become monopolies, what happens? We are not receiving any benefit from anything, because they control the market. They control everything. They charge prices which they want. They do everything for themselves. So we must capacitate what is called the Competition Commission, if there is one in Zimbabwe there, to make sure that powers of monopoly and oligopolies have to be thwarted. So with that, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Brother Denford.
Commander, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, host. Actually, all I wanted to say has been said, but however, I think I'll borrow from Chief Ndiwen's words that for us to benefit from our resources, we need to reboot the system. How do we reboot it? It's going to be hard, but it's once sacrifices. We need to vote this government out and start afresh, because as long as we are under ZANU-PF, we will remain poor while the country is rich. The very sad part of it is that natural resources such as minerals get depleted under our watch. Once depleted, we will continue to be poor. So the time is now. Let's stop them right now. Of course, it's going to be difficult. As we have seen, they have started gerrymandering, aborting the constitution, everything election related rigging has already started. But it's up to us as citizens to rise and say no to this. We start afresh. Because leakages in terms of our minerals, we know how porous our borders are. Some go via Zambia, others via Mozambique, but mainly it's the destination is South Africa, and also finding markets in places like Dubai. Some countries are getting rich out of our sweat. Makorokodza, if Mthuli Ncube projects economic development, it includes Makorokodza. But those Makorokodza don't even pay tax. When he forecasts, he also includes these mega deals, where whenever they are signed, we know that our people are going to be chased from their ancestral lands. Every time a mega deal is signed, we are not happy, because we know of the consequences. People are being chased away from their lands. Let's report. That's all I can say. Thank you, host and co-host.
Yes, thank you very much, Commander and much appreciated. Makorokozo arikita basa raoneta. But this time, I would want to give an opportunity to our guest speaker, who has so much spoken eloquently about this topic, and I personally learned so much from him. And I would want to believe everybody could have also taken one or two things from his presentation. For those who would want to go ahead listening or give advice to other people listening to this recording, I think you can record this one. There's the other one that we had started with when Mama Gu was doing his presentation. We lost our network, and I think it was an hour's presentation. So you can as well go through that. It will help you. But thank you very much, Mr. Magu. I give you this chance to just conclude your remarks. Mr. Magu, can you unmute, please?
Okay, I'm here now. Thank you, Denford. I really liked the submissions made by most of all the people who were contributing to this topic. Particularly the issue on leadership and governance. We are not all in that office when decisions are made. But as our national anthem says, we need leaders with integrity, who, when they sit down with an investor, they don't think about themselves and their families, but they think about that child in Muzokomba, that old woman in Wange, in Gokwe, in Nyanga, and say, I'm here on behalf of the country. And that's what is missing in our governance matrix today. Leaders who think on behalf of those who are not on the table. So as long as our governance, the governance of our minerals is done to advance selfish interest, we have a problem. But we need to start, as we have already started, talking about it, raising awareness about it, and we need advocacy, where citizens say no to resource looting, irrespective of whether you threaten to arrest or to kill or to do whatever. But a nation is built through a strong conviction that what the route we are taking is wrong. There is an alternative to the current model of governance that we are having. So we also promote dialogue. Let's have dialogue among ourselves, across political parties, across genders, across ages. We need to talk because our natural resources are vast and plenty. And it's an area that we have comparative advantage of other countries. So we can't allow that opportunity to go to West and just enrich those with the levers of power. So I want to thank you guys. Those ideas you've been raising here are very critical. And let's use them. Let's speak about these issues and influence people to start, demanding socio-economic justice from our natural resources. Change can come from the top-down approach, where you've got progressive leaders in office who will change policies and practices. But change can also be bottom-up, where the grassroots people popularly known as the ordinary citizens, say we have had enough of this, and we are demanding a change of behavior. When these politicians come to the communities, even now we have got election, ask the council, the legislative, the presidential candidates, ask them questions. What is your plan about our natural resources? And I think that can help to put the natural resource governance onto the election agenda for the upcoming election. Otherwise, thank you so much for inviting me to speak. And it was also a pleasure to listen to all the contributions that were made on the platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vamagu. I've learned quite a lot from you. And like I said before, you have figures, you have numbers of what we can make out of our natural resources as a country. And I wish they could invite you when they deliberate on the budget, when they deliberate on the issues like they were doing during the week, talking about our 20-something billion, 26 billion debt. You could have simply explained to them, put it on the table, the figures to say, annually we make 20 billion out of natural resources. So we shouldn't be owing that much. So I really appreciate you taking time despite your busy schedule. And we will pray and remember you as the PVO bill is being used, to punish people. We pray that the natural resources governance organization that you run will be spared, and that you can help Zimbabwe become a better Zimbabwe. I want to thank everyone for coming to this space. I want to thank everyone for their submission, everyone for listening and just attending. We appreciate you being with us every week. And like we said before, you can play the recording, or you can also go to our YouTube channel, which is called Reshaping Zimbabwe. And we hope to meet some of you in prayer, where we pray for Zimbabwe in an hour's time. Let's meet and pray for Zimbabwe on Twitter Spaces. Over to you, host.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amaifa, for the time that you also spared to make this program go. And thank you in particular to Mr. Magu for the time that you also spared. Thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you so much to the listeners, everybody who participated in being here. We really applaud your presence, and it actually makes the program goes smoothly. But to you, Mr. Magu, one thing that I would want to say to you is you have been so you persevered in your job. I've known you for quite a long time. You advocated for greener energy. You advocated for good governance. You are still advocating for our environmental cleanliness. So this is something that we would want to actually impart to everybody, every Zimbabwean, to say, if we cannot leave this only to a particular organization or a person, let's do it collectively. I'm also happy that you have highlighted that you actually can forego all the job that you have done. You do not even mind being restricted doing your job through the PVO bill that is being muted, but you have actually said that you still continue to advocate for the rights of ordinary citizens, in particular in the rural areas, at the hands of those people who just want to enrich themselves. This is what we expect from everybody of us. But I would want to really end by saying it has always been a pleasure to have everybody come to the space. Otherwise, I will meet again next week. God bless everybody.